Let's kick off this barbecue. Welcome everyone. It's great to see so many people come out despite the slight chill in the air, but Bryan is going to help heat us up.
Yeah.
So I thought, as usual, I'm going to start by talking a little bit about science. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about wood. Here I have a piece of cherry wood, very specific directions from Bryan to get this kind of wood, no other kind of crappy wood. Which we worked hard to get, thanks to the amazing team led by Alex. So what is wood made of? Anyone want to tell me what wood is made of? Tell me more. You need to be louder. Cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, right? Some portion of those, there's a little bit more cellulose, about equal portions of hemicellulose and lignin. What is that made of? What are some atoms in those molecules? Carbon, right? Carbon. Carbon is just bound up so tightly and neatly and perfectly in this piece of wood. Okay, what happens when you burn wood?
Carbon dioxide.
You get smoke. What else do you get?
Carbon dioxide.
You get carbon dioxide, you get fire, you get water, right? So it turns out that the carbon in the wood is bound up in what we call hydrocarbons. It's these networks, these polymers, networks of polysaccharides, of all these carbon rings that have some oxygen and some hydrogen on it. And when we burn them, when we burn the hydrocarbons, if we do it perfectly, if there is a complete combustion, then all we get is carbon dioxide and water. All we get. All we would get from this. Turns out that's almost never the case. Almost always, when you're making your fire with a piece of wood, usually there just isn't enough oxygen around. The fire just consumes it very, very quickly, so there isn't enough oxygen. And so instead you get incomplete combustion. And then you still get water, you still get carbon dioxide, but you also get all kinds of yummy, amazing aroma molecules. And you get some smoke, which you mentioned, someone I heard say carbon monoxide. And that's what we want. Like that's what Bryan really, really wants.
I like the sucrose out of the sugar though from
right,
the cherry wood.
Right,
of the fruit
exactly.
Tree. Yeah.
Right, fruit, yeah. You should talk more about that. Yeah. Okay. So how that happened basically is all of that amazing network of the hydrocarbons, all those rings, they were broken down into aroma molecules, and they look like basically what I've drawn here on the board. So this here is, for those of you who like to look at molecules, I love to look at molecules. If it's been a long time for you, welcome back. Enjoy looking at these molecules with me. This one here is a furan. It has a bready, sweet, amazing smell. This one here is diacetyl, has a kind of green appley smell. This one, anyone know what this is? No, not today. Vanillin. Vanillin comes from smoke as well. This is glycol, has a kind of smoky, meaty flavor. All of that you get basically from burning this. Okay, so we burned this, and then the question is, what happens at all of that, as all of those amazing molecules are moving into and sort of penetrating the meat. So I've drawn a little figure here of this here. This is a physicist's version of a rib. Here's a rib, yeah. And you can imagine that it's surrounded by all these amazing flavor molecules. It's also surrounded by this carbon monoxide gas, CO, all of it there. And then as the rib is smoking, what happens to these molecules? They slowly move into our slab of meat like this. They move into the delicious brisket over time. And as they do that, they start to change the meat, right? So the aroma molecules are giving flavor to the meat, but the carbon monoxide does something else. So it turns out, what is one of the main molecules in ribs? Does anyone know?
Come on.
I hear all kinds of random things. You don't have a microphone, I do. Turns out one of the molecules in ribs is myoglobin. It is similar to hemoglobin.
Yep.
It is basically what binds oxygen and provides it to the muscle cells, to the heart cells, the muscle cells. And it turns out that in its normal state, so this morning, as Bryan put these ribs into the smoker, they were bound, all of these myoglobins, this here is kind of a part of the myoglobin, and when it is bound to oxygen, which is kind of its natural state, then the color is red, just like raw meat, red. When you smoke the meat, this oxygen is basically exchanged for the carbon monoxide, like this. What do you think the color of that is?
Pink. What'd you say?
I think I heard pink, right? Pink. So when you're looking at your rib, you can see how far the carbon monoxide has moved based on the color of the meat. Based on the color of the meat. Okay, so what I want you to do, basically, so this entire lecture series is built on a class. So that means that we ask you questions too. So at the end of all this, after Bryan and I have educated you.
Yeah, I want to say one thing though. So like she said, like with ribs, pork, the meat, the bone, or with the blood, and you said it's going to be pink. Y'all not going to see it, but tomorrow the students will see it. I'm cooking brisket for the students tomorrow. But the coloring of the blood in the brisket is a lot darker. So you have a darker ring around it. And so that's where that smoke ring comes from. It's the blood being extracted from the bone, coming through the meat. And so that's where that smoke ring comes from. Don't let nobody tell you it comes from wood. It comes from the blood being extracted from the bottom and the top of the meat.
Okay. So at the end of all of this, we are going to have a little quiz. So you need to pay careful attention. And at the end of all this, we're going to ask you 3 or 4 questions between me and Bryan.
Yeah.
And if you know the answer, you'll raise your hand and you can win an apron. And this apron has all of these amazing equations on it. Even has 1 or 2 molecules on it. So you can cook with it, with your smoker, following Bryan's recipe. And you can look up the equations. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Bryan, award-winning pitmaster from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
3rd time here,
Yeah,
because
3rd
it's
year.
so amazing and so good.
Yeah, next year I get my diploma.
Let's welcome Bryan.
Hi everyone. So I'm gonna break this down. I'm not gonna be as scientific as she was with the molecules and things like that. But what you were talking about with the wood is, I use cherry wood because of the coloring. Like the coloring, it gets diffused with the carbon dioxide during the smoking process. But a lot of times, if you're cooking at a higher temp, it depends on the temp you're cooking. Because if you're cooking at a faster or a higher temp, the heat is coming so fast and the food is cooking so quick, it doesn't have time for that process to allow that smoke ring to build up. So that has a lot to do with the wood. Also, not only the sugar in the wood, but the water that's in the wood as well. So a lot of times if you're cooking barbecue at home and you hear like a sizzle, that's the water coming out of the wood. If you're using a fruit wood, that's the water and the sugar coming out. So that's why I like to use cherry wood when I'm cooking my ribs, because not only am I going to get the color, I'm also going to get that sugar taste or sweetness to my meat, because in my rub, I use a salt base. It's not a sugar base. So my rubs are particularly salt-based due to the process of seasoning and the smoking process. The wood, not the wood, got me talking about wood now. The meat will be curing. So as time goes by, if you know anything about smoking or curing meats, the flavor intensifies every day. So the first process we're going to talk about, the energy that I use with starting the fire, is this cherry wood comes from Amy Smoke, out of Sonoya, Georgia. She owns this company. And she kiln dries her wood. So the wood is actually already kiln dry, so it's real dry. You don't have to worry about a water base and slowing up and down with the temps. And in that process, somebody took them out. What her saw does, she has these little blocks. So you take these little blocks, so it's all natural. Everything here is USDA certified. Got one more piece in here. And this is for starting your fire. So usually for the past 2 years, I used a charcoal chimney and showed you how to start it with charcoal. But this year, I'm just basically explaining how you can start your fire strictly with just wood to get the same concept that I got with the charcoal, but a different flavor. So we would take these, can't really explain, it's the smoker. Hold on one thing. I'm trying to explain how last year the smoke was down a little bit better so they could see the firebox. This year is a little further down. You get what I'm saying, Pia? Is that okay? You want me to just explain? So usually what I would do is I'll tic-tac-toe, like 3 in the back. So I use 6 of these. And then I will take these and I will build them like a TP. And so, because with fire, you want it to go up. You see a lot of people, they will tic-tac-toe it. Well, you want to build it to where the fire is going at an angle going up. Because if it's going up, heat rises. So once you get that going, you really, on this smoker, which is a reverse flow smoker, meaning there's a plate that runs under here. The heat, where I'm building my fire from here, that's going to control this temp, is going to run through here. And when I open the smoker up, you all get excited and laugh because you see the food. So right now, it might be a little dull to you. So there's a plate that runs under here. And what happens is the heat runs under, and it comes back across, and it's forced to come back on this side because the exhaust is over here. On a Texas-style offset smoker, you usually see this on this end, and that's a straight flow smoker. So your heat is just going to run straight. With a reverse flow, like I said, goes under and back. And that means I get a more consistent cook because my meat just got hit twice with the heat. With a straight flow smoker, the heat is just going to run, so you're in there all day moving your meat around, trying to get it to the hottest point. So once I get my smoker up to 250, 275 with the wood, 250, 275 is a high, I'm gonna say a high temp. When you hear people talk about barbecue, usually I'm saying 220, 225, that's bacon meat. 275, 250 is the perfect for curing, smoking, the product that I push out, because also I love to use fatty meat. Fatty meat has more flavor, and I need a temp that's gonna render that flavor down. So when you see your ribs, you won't see any chunks of fat because I rendered it down with the process that I use to smoke the meats. Also this year, what I bought with me, I might be hopping around a little bit. Somebody just seen me go for a whole bunch of coffee. But being from South Carolina this year, I wanted to bring and show also a third process that I'm doing here is I'm cooking these conch peas. They're made they're grown in Modesto, South Carolina. So I'm cooking them with the firebox heat. So yeah, I've been cooking these for a little minute, yeah. But I'm using the back of the smoker as like a wood stove. Back in the day, if you're from the country, your parents had a wood stove and that's how they cooked their food. So the peas are going on in the back. And I also got some Carolina gold rice. And the meat that's inside of those peas are the trimmings from the ribs that are flappy. If you don't even like trimming everything out, like barbecue is more of a consistent product. So if you're not consistent with your process, it's gonna be up and down. And I kind of like to be leveled. Am I boring you? You just look like, oh God, like you just ready to eat. So the reason I ask this question is, I'm saying this is because with barbecue is a very consistent process. And I always tell people there's no day the same. The temperature can affect, the weather can affect. If it was hot outside, it won't take as long for the smoker to get hot. So no day is ever the same. So as I talk about the top, when I open this up, you will see I have these briskets up here and I have aluminum foil on the ends. The aluminum foil is to help speed up the process a little bit for the briskets, but I only season the briskets with salt and pepper. Nothing extra, just salt and pepper. They've been on since 1 o'clock. The ribs been on since about 2:30. And so the controlling the energy, I'm gonna go back a little bit. Controlling the energy, once we got our fire built, the exhaust here, we wanna keep it wide open. You see a lot of guys or women, a lot of guys and women that's cooking barbecue at home, and you'll see them moving back and forth with the heat flow, the intake. I call it the intake like I'm driving a car. This is my intake, this is my exhaust. So my intake over here, I have it wide open because like my dad taught me growing up, if the fire is not getting oxygen, it's not gonna burn. So I control my temp off my exhaust and I keep my intake wide open. Once my temp has got all the way up, then I determine I may come a quarter and close it off. Today, since I know I had to have something done at 7, I kept it wide open. But that's how you keep the flow and the heat consistent is with the intake. So if you see it going a little high, first thing you need to do is say you want to cook at 250, right? Once you see your smoker and it's at 275, 300, always go up like a quarter or halfway to control it. What you'll start seeing is your intake here in the back is smoke will start coming out because you're smothering the fire. So now I can't breathe as much as it was before. But if you sit here and just watch your temp gauge, give it about 2 minutes, you'll start seeing it go like this. It's breaking, it's coming down. Once you see it is about 5 degrees, about 255, then that's when you know that's where you want to keep your smoker at. You just want to make sure it stay loaded with fuel. And then after that, I say like with ribs, I never flip. Now I'm going to give you a cooking class. With ribs, I never flip. I cook bone side down and maybe at the end, because with barbecue, the most important thing with, like I said, barbecue is it tastes better the next day. And that's because of the process that I'm cooking. If I was to take these ribs and brine them in sodium and salt water, like you do turkeys and chicken and things like that for the holidays to keep it juicy, you pull all the myoglobin out. It's gone. So you won't get a smoke ring. So that's why I always say in the beginning of the class when Pia was talking that it's not in the wood. It's the blood that causes the smoke ring. If you go online and see a lot of classes or people talking about the smoke ring, they're gonna say it came from wood. And that's not a true fact. So, any questions while I'm going? Is it okay so far? Am I boring? Okay, that's all I want to hear. All right. So, so with like when I open this and you see these briskets, you'll see I have cardboard laid on the bottom. Because with briskets, like I say, 250, 275. Now that grate is going to be higher than 250, 275 because it's metal. So what I do when I learned this from a friend, Perm, from Silla Pitts Barbecue, is put cardboard. And so on that cardboard, when that brisket and that brisket is cooking, not only is the myoglobin in there, but the water content is coming out as well. And as that water content comes out, it dampens that cardboard. So you don't have to worry about your cardboard catching fire if you're cooking on a reverse or offset pit. If you're cooking on a direct pit, I would advise you not to do that because it'll dry the cardboard out and it'll catch fire. So I'm just wanting to give you some examples so when I open the smoker up, you kind of get a feel of like, all right, what's going on here? Why he got this going on and this, that, and the third. I need something to wipe my face real quick. The wind is blowing on me. Hey, could you kind of like wipe my face because I don't want to touch my hands.
Where?
Just my nose, like just the wind.
I'm not paying enough for this.
Well, I'm not wiping my nose and touching these people's food.
Okay.
So like I say, when I open this smoker up, you'll see how I have it, how the food is laid out. Also, with as many ribs that I cook, what I would do is also lay them on top of each other and let them cook each other. so the moisture stays in. I also squirt every so often with white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, just for the acidity in it to tenderize and break down the meat. I also have a pan in there of brisket fat that I trim off and I let render down to keep the brisket juicy while it's cooking. I got a lot of stuff going on over here. Huh? You can't wait? Okay. All right. And then you will see like the coloring, what I was talking about with the wood on the ribs. So, okay. So you see the redness, if you can see that in the light. You can see that? Can you see? And like I always go off feel. So feel to me is like if I could stick my finger through it, like that, and like that, and it still stay on the bone. So when I cut it, you're gonna still be able to bite it. And it's not gonna be like your grandma's ribs that she put in the oven and baked and put barbecue sauce on them. It's not your grandma's ribs. Briskets, I'll pull this out. So I think this is one. So this brisket here, how I tell with briskets like I just did with the ribs is I would always go to the thickest point if I could stick my finger in it. But see how I still kind of got giving me a little fight back, like bouncy? It's not ready. So that's how I go off cooking. And like I said, with understanding this smoker is so small and the heat, that's why I put this here on these corners so it doesn't dry my meat out, but it also helps with the cooking process. Reynolds wrap also has science to it. It helps you cook stuff a little quicker. So, like when I trim, I try to like think of waste when I'm cooking. So if you see me like tearing like meat and putting it in the beans for flavor, that was me when I'm cooking my ribs. I want to have an even cut. So I cut the boneless ends off and I just put like regular iodized salt on them and smoke them on the smoker and then pour them into the beans. Just another way, if you do have a restaurant out here or a barbecue restaurant somewhere around, give me a little knowledge on how to use your waste product. But the brisket fat here is the brisket trimmings from a lot of the brisket. So I'll take this, and you see the juice that comes out? And that's just another way where I break the fat down and I'm not throwing it away. And then I will take this later and put it in my baked beans. So that's another thing. Any questions so far? No questions. Okay.
What's the temperature of the meat?
The temperature of the meat? Brisket, since I go off feel, brisket is done at 195. If you cook any meat, it's gonna go at 5 degrees. So that's why they tell when you cook a steak, let it sit.
Yeah.
You do that with brisket. So what I'll do is I'll cook my brisket, I'll let it sit, saran wrap, let it cool down. Ribs, same thing. I cook my ribs to about 195. Pull them off because they'll go up to 200. If you pull anything at 200, it's gonna cook up to 205. So when you're slicing your brisket, it's just gonna be falling apart. So you overcooked it. So everything that I cook, I train my employees to pull off at 195, everything.
So Bryan, you mentioned that things changed with the humidity. Do you measure the humidity, or do you just like poke the meat to see how it's doing?
Well, when I say humidity, I mean outside, like the weather. Like if it's colder, I need to be there to start my fire a lot quicker. So where on a normal summer day, it might take 20 minutes to get my smoker up. If I'm up here in Cambridge or Boston, it might take me an hour and a half. So I'm just going off the weather. So the weather. Now, the wetness of the wood has a play to it too, because if the wood is real wet and you put it in, you're gonna have like a real cloudy or black smoke coming out of there. And that's because it's fighting with the water content that's in the wood. That's why I like using Amy's wood, because it's killing dried and is guaranteed to be a dry product.
What's the process like in the restaurant? Do you have to start cooking like the brisket or the ribs early in the morning, or do you have to do it like one day in advance? What's it like when you have the barbecue restaurant?
Well, my process is with the new restaurant that we're focusing on November next year. That's the goal next year. We're doing a whole rebuild. But my goal is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so that gives my people 12 days a month to work. So they off the rest of the days. You don't want to burn them out. That's one. But two, you have that truck come in on like a Tuesday, so you could prep Tuesday, Wednesday. Now Thursday when you open, like I said, the ribs and chicken will be coming off hot, but the briskets was cooking the day before. So when you come in on Thursday, you're cooking briskets for Friday, and when you come in on Friday, you're cooking briskets for Saturday. And so it makes the process a lot quicker. Even with sides, like going from a mayo-based side, mayo-based coleslaw, this time I'm going with a vinegar base that my aunt is a Haitian recipe, but it's very good. It's real good. I can't even explain how good it is, but that's gonna be on the menu. But just understanding like that's a side that I could hold a lot longer. And also with the mayo base, a lot of people don't eat mayo. And if you get the wrong kind of mayo that has a lot of water in it and not enough egg, it turns your coleslaw watery. So it's just so many different things that I've learned. So like just understanding the process. Yeah, so I have a prep team come in to answer your question. I went all over the world with that, but yeah, to answer your question, I have a prep team come in a day or two. I have a meat prep and then I have a side prep. So my meat team don't do my sides and my sides don't do my meat. So, Any more questions? Come on, somebody got to ask something. Pig, we got it. Don't be shy now. I'm here to answer questions now.
I have another question about the over here about the schedule. So you said that the brisket will taste better the next day. So if you're serving for Thursday, do you start salting it, like rubbing it on Tuesday, and then you smoke it on Wednesday?
And so what I'll do is my brisket I'll do the day before. So for Wednesday, I prep my brisket. Because what I don't like to do is I don't like to season my meat and let it sit in the fridge. If I season my ribs, any pork, like the whole hog, if I season any of that, it's gonna taste like ham. Because that salt base in it is gonna cure it while it's sitting. So with the brisket, if I do the same thing, it's gonna come out tasting like corned beef. Because that salt content is just gonna start curing the meat. So what I actually like to do is season right before I put on ribs. You can do ribs, you can warm ribs up the next day, which they will taste better. I mean, it's my opinion, they would taste better, but it's the way you warm it up. So when you're warming it up, you're warming it up at like 160. You're not putting it on a 250 degree smoker. You're warming it up at like 165, 170, so you're not overcooking it. And also, if you do warm it up, you get in a crunch, and you got friends coming over for the Super Bowl. If you do get in a crunch, ladies and gentlemen who's on the smoker outside, you want to warm it up meat side down because you've cooked your ribs bone side down. If you put them back bone side down, they're just going to fall apart. So what you want to do is you want to warm them up meat side down so the bones stay intact. Also with chicken, if you like when I cook chickens, I cook my chicken skin side down. Some people go bone, then they flip. I go skin side down whole time. And I spatchcock. So I split them like this, the moisture stays together, and then I go, and I keep my, I'll turn my, so if I'm on this smoker and I'm cooking chicken, my thighs and legs will be facing this way because I know it's heat over here. And then on this side here where I know the fire is coming from, I have my legs and thighs this way because it's 180 for the thighs and the drumsticks, and it's 165 for for the breast. So that's how I keep that. That's how I do that.
Oh, he's already.
Hi, I got two questions. First one is, do you have a preferred thickness of the steak? And the second one is, you said there's a reflow, there's a top and bottom. Does that determine which kind of meats go on the top or bottom?
Well,
Is
the
there-
reason I put my brisket on top was I always cook my brisket on top because it's a thicker cut, and I need a higher heat, and I need to render that fat down. But also because I'm cooking brisket and pork on the same smoker, and I may be running into somebody that don't eat pork. But I'm sorry tonight if you're eating conch peas, they got pork in them. Other than that, no. Steak is more grilled. It's a direct. So if I'm cooking steaks, I'm gonna have this at the hottest point. So I'm basically gonna bring it over here close to the firebox, or I'm gonna cook it over here on this side, where the hottest heat is coming from.
Hey, how's it going? Any tips or tricks for smoking, let's say like on a grill at home? Yeah, like
Sure.
any insight, yeah.
Sure. So if you got a Weber or a direct grill, what you do is you will build your fire, and you'll put your fire to this side. So you're offset cooking. And what you do is, at the top you have those little holes. So you have your hose at the bottom, and you have the little thing I don't know what they call that thing, but the little vent. Yeah, a vent. Yeah, I think of a vent of a house. I think house. So yeah, the little vent that the smoke comes out. Instead of taking your vent and having it directly over your fire, turn it so it's directly over your meat. Because what that does is that forces the smoke and heat to go over your meat to go out. Because if you have the vent directly over the fire, it's just going, whew. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, you can get the same product like at home. I started on a $55 grill at Home Depot when I first started this business of having a barbecue restaurant. So yeah, I started on a cheap grill. So as long as you take care of the grill will take care of you. Just oil it up and clean it up when you're finished with it. That's like anything in life though.
I was just curious, do you ever start with one wood and move to a different type, or do multiple types of wood at once?
So let's get back to wood. Fruit woods don't have enough, how can I say this? It's a word, oh God. So oak wood, my terms, break it down to my terms. Oak wood is good for having great coals. No sugars coming out of oak wood. Hickory is known for making a great coal. So that's why when you see a lot of charcoal bags, you may see oak or hickory on it. Hickory is not good for cooking live fire though, because the toxins in the wood, they give it the bitterness. So you don't want to use hickory until it's burned down. So that's why a lot of the old barbecue joints you see, they have the guy in there shoveling the coals. It's because they done burnt the flavor out of that hickory wood, and they're using hickory coals to cook the food. I will go with oak, pecan, and cherry as my three woods. Because all woods, like I say, mesquite, hickory, they're strong, they'll overpower the meat. So that's why when you look on a bag or charcoal bag, if you buy wood chunks from the store, they'll be like fish, turkey, this, and it'll tell you fruit wood. Oh, it'll tell you what woods you could cook the meat with. So I stay in that medium where I know pecan is not overpowering, but I know it makes great coals. I know oak wood make great coals. I know cherry wood gives me great flavor. So what I do is, at the restaurant, I would use oak for my base. But if I'm just cooking like ribs, I just throw cherry on ribs. But at the restaurant, I gotta be honest, I don't really go like, okay, I put 3 pieces of this on. I just throw it in, like I don't go like breaking it down to a number. Hey, make sure you put 8 pieces of oak on, 7 pieces of cherry. I don't do that. I just try to keep the temp up. But yeah, I do have a certain other wood. So that's why I call those like the medium, the mild woods, something that I could cook everything on. But when I'm cooking whole hogs, I don't use cherry wood. And for the fact is, the cherry coloring will turn the tenderloin like an orange color, and it's real ugly. So that's why I do that.
Hi.
Hi,
You
how you
had
doing?
mentioned cooking fattier cuts of meat at a temperature 250 to 75. What temperature do you smoke poultry, chicken, turkey at?
300. 300 just for just chicken, just it being chicken. I try to sometimes brine chicken, but I'll cook it higher because I realize that pink color scares a lot of people in the restaurant. They don't understand the smoking process, even though you put it on the menu. Meats may be pink. They're not gonna get it. You're still gonna get that complaint. So I kind of finally understood, okay, brine chicken so you don't get that problem. But even duck, I learned that with the skin of the duck. Like, duck is very fatty. So what I would do is a 3-step with duck. I would slice it, put the little cuts in the skin, and cook it skin side down first, bone side, and I finish it skin side. And by that time, it has rendered all the fat out, and then you're not biting into chunks of fat. Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
Sorry, how's it going? I'm curious. I was interested by the reverse flow smoker versus the straight flow.
Mm-hmm.
Is it purely geographical? Why, is it an East Coast thing that folks use the reverse flow? And you said that folks in Texas tend to use the straight flow. Is it like a volume thing where Texas folks are like burning through more barbecue, so they need hotter? So I'm just curious.
I ain't even gonna agree with that because I'm
Okay.
from South Carolina. That's where barbecue was made. So
Fair enough.
I'm being funny. I got a lot of friends out in Texas. I don't want nobody aiming for me when I come there.
Because
Gotta be there
it
next
just seemed
month.
like your process is,
No,
why wouldn't you have the reverse flow?
I honestly like the reverse flow because, like I said, it's a more consistent cook. And I don't have to worry about a grease fire.
Okay.
With the offsets that they have in Texas, it's just a constant going back and forth. Like me, I've been doing it long enough. Like I know once I put my briskets on, I won't open that door for like 7 hours. And so I basically train off the temp gauge. Like, hey, go what's on the temp? 250? All right, put another 2 pieces of wood in it. So now if I'm cooking ribs, open it up in 2 hours. But, if you're looking, you're not cooking. I'm hearing that from my dad for so long. So if you're looking, you're not cooking. And if you ain't got no fire, you're not cooking either. So I done heard both of those from him. But no, that's not, I honestly have cooked on those offsets when I went to Texas. And there's nothing wrong with them. I just don't like the method of always having to go in and move meat around. Yeah.
So, thanks for all these tips. Could you tell us how you got into barbecue at first? And second question, for a newcomer, could you give a suggestion for a good starter smoker?
Good starter smoker. Y'all have Buc-ee's around here? Oh God. Well, I say go to Home Depot. Man, I feel like I need to be getting paid marketing for something if I give a name out. But no, I'm not like that. So I would say, like, when I first started out, I started out with like a char broil or something. It's like a char broil or whatever. Make sure when you go there, you tell them that Bryan Furman sent you in there. But the char broiler, I think, is a great smoker. The reason I asked Buc-ee's because I got a grill from Buc-ee's on my patio. Like, I don't have a big old smoker, nothing like that I cook on. So I have something like that at my house. But what made me get into barbecue is my dad cooked a lot of barbecue. My grandmother had a pig farm growing up in South Carolina. So I grew up around it a lot. We had burn barrels where, to me, like that firebox was my burn barrel, where we would get the wood and shovel it and put it under the pit. But we had brick pits that we cooked the pigs on, then you would flip them. Well, my dad would always cook the ribs and the meat, the ribs and the chicken. And my dad's from Miami. So, and I gotta say one explicit word, but my dad used to say this all the time. I'm warning you before I say it. My dad just be shaking his head, and I'm like 5, 6 years old, just standing over time, and he'd just be like, and I'd be like, what's going on? Like, I'd be like, Dad, what's wrong? And he'd be like, and meat up. And I'm like, huh? He's like, and that meat up. I was like, what you talking about? He was like, they're boiling it. So my uncles was boiling the meat and then putting it on the grill. And he was like, they're taking all the flavor out the meat. And then you go look at that pot and you see the fat sitting on the top.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Should we start cutting the ribs?
Sure.
Yes.
Uh-oh. So that's how that happened. And when that happened, I noticed my dad cooked every grill, fried every fish at every event that went on at my grandmother's house from there on. So, and that's what got me into barbecue. And when he's an electrical engineer now, but then he was an electrical engineer, but he would go around a lot and he would always bring barbecue home. So that's why I like on my IG page a lot. You'll see me post food, like when I'm in a different city or trying other people's barbecue, because I would dare eat any of this come out of here tonight, just because I smell it all the time. But as time got older, I always wanted to open my own barbecue joint, and I was a welder by trade, and I just got tired of like going to different cities, working different jobs, and wanted to build something for my kids, and took my 401k and opened a barbecue joint in Savannah, Georgia, and that's how I started. So let me go ahead and start cutting these ribs. Yeah,
Okay, so
I can cut here too. I can open
so
here.
Bryan is going to get started and get the team started cutting ribs, and you'll walk us through it, right? Will
on
you
the
walk
rib
us through
cutting?
it?
Walk you through the what I'm walking
Are
through
you going
now.
to tell them how you're going to cut the ribs?
Oh, okay, sure. So the science of cutting ribs. Show y'all the science of cutting ribs right now. And that's what makes it so easy, like with why I cut the ends. So when it's time to cut them, I never cut ribs, I always cut ribs bone side down. I mean, bone side up. Because if you cut this way, depending on what side you start on, and you're supposed to start on the right side, the right side every time. Because if you start on this left side, this is the side where the extra little flabby piece is. There's a curve. So if you start here and you cut with the bone side up, you could cut through every bone and you'll miss every ligament. So it'll be a perfect cut. So I've seen people have ribs down like this and they're like this. And I'm like, how do you see what you're cutting? Because you can't see the back side where you can just go boom, 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 like that. So, and there's the pink color. Is that? You see that? So that's the science of cutting ribs. And plus I don't, the past 2 years I bought sauce, but I really want you to taste the flavor in the rib, so I didn't bring sauce this year. Yeah. So if you're gonna put sauce on them, if you want to sauce them up, I would advise you to like sauce the rib and then put it on the hot side for maybe like 3 to 4 minutes, because that sugar in that sauce is gonna burn real fast. So that's usually, but I usually always like serve my barbecue with sauce on the side like a condiment, because most people don't want sauce on their food. So
I'm just gonna
check that rice on the back side that has the aluminum. You already checked it? Is it good?
The rice?
Yes.
Do you want me to try?
Yeah.
Should I ask them some questions while you cut?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I have Bryan's permission to give you a quiz. Okay, right? So let's see. So I have a question. Why was it important to use cherry wood as opposed to any other kind of wood? Yes, I see a person up there. Because there were sugars in the wood. Was there any other reason? Yes? Color, maybe. Although I think he didn't agree with that. I think, right?
If you didn't
Color,
brine it.
right, okay. I think you get an apron back there. Okay, next question. When myoglobin is bound to oxygen, what color is it? So many people, you get it. What is the name of one flavor molecule in smoke? Vanillin. Last question. Do you have a question, Brian?
No.
Want to ask them a really hard question?
Really hard question.
The A+ question.
A+ question.
That shows they really listened. He's thinking.
What's the process of if you want to grill live fire with hickory wood? What is it? Hold on.
He got it right?
You got it right.
Okay, you get an apron. We're going to shuttle it back to you. Okay, that was it for the quiz. You all get A's. To make coals. Oh, yeah. Are you okay taking questions while you cut?
Huh?
Are you okay taking
Yeah. You can ask questions.
Okay, so Brian confirms that he can both cut ribs expertly and take questions. Any more questions?
Brian, do you ever smoke things that are not meat, like vegetables, potatoes, carrots?
Okay, so just to repeat your question so everyone can hear, do you ever smoke things that are not meat, like vegetables, carrots?
Yeah,
potatoes?
I do a lot of veggies. I do a lot of squashes. I do a lot of different mushrooms for vegans. A lot of times when I'm doing events, I have people who don't eat meat, so I have to consider those options. So even with the restaurant reopening, we're doing some vegan options. Yeah.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, how about you first and then you behind?
So you mentioned that the heat was closest to the heat box was where it was warmest, but then also on the opposite side. Why is it warm on the opposite side as well?
Good question. So just to repeat to everyone, the question was that Brian mentioned that it was very hot next to the heat box, but then you also mentioned that it's also hot over here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why that is?
Why? Well, isn't a reverse flow smoker? So with the door being open, you do notice the heat is coming from here because it's a plate that runs down here. So that's why you don't see any heat coming from here. So the heat is running under this plate and it's coming from this side and going that way. So that's why this is a hot point, this is a hot point, and this is a hot point just because of the exhaust is over here. So I always say, like on a smoker, there's 3 and 3. You have 3 hot spots, 3 cold spots.
And then there was a question. Yes, you.
Find that your restaurant team is very fulfilled, not having to work 5, 6, 7 days a week. Do you have high turnover? I'm just curious about your
Okay, so just to repeat so everyone could hear the question was, how does your team feel about working those number of days a week as opposed to the full week? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I thought it was heaven when I was doing it. So if I was only working 3 days a week, I know how they would feel. But I just felt you get more consistent. It's just consistency in your body. It's not wore out. And, I found that as long as they're happy, you're happy, like I say. So even though before everything happened with the rebuild, we were 6 days a week. And even then I had a high turnover rate, people not wanting to come in. So I just was like, I hate to say it, glad COVID came. It taught me some things. It made me slow down a little bit and then rethink when I reopen, I'm going back to 3 days a week. Because I started out 3 days a week when I first opened my first restaurant. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. If you really think about it, people want to eat barbecue on the weekend. It's a real heavy, concentrated food. So, yes. I'm going to say that again, please.
Okay, let's see any other questions. Yes, back there. Right. The question is, why did you only use salt and pepper and not the amazing blend flavor we know from previous years?
Because my dad told me beef is like a steak and you only put salt and pepper on it. And pork is my rub. So it's like an all-purpose rub that you could put on anything. And plus, you want the meat to speak for itself. So I don't have to disguise it too much.
And maybe give me a show of hands who did not get ribs yet. Okay, a lot of people. Did you guys see people who are handing out over here? Okay, anyone have other questions? If your question is really good, your chances are increasing that you get a rib. No? Right? That seems fair. Yes.
What are some little flourishes you do on top of your cooking to really clinch a victory in these competitions?
Well, if you read the back of my
can you
hoodie,
repeat
I
the
heard
question?
you. I already got him.
I know, but what about everyone else?
Uh-huh.
Everyone else wants to know the question too.
Okay.
Can you repeat it?
Repeat it.
Thanks.
Repeat the question, please.
What are some flourishes you do on top of your standard cooking to clinch a competition?
Well, the back of my hoodie says I don't cook for judges, I cook for the people. And that's because I don't do competitions. I feel like competition food couldn't be served in a restaurant because it's loaded with sugar. And most of the people that's judging those competitions don't even know how to cook barbecue. So I don't really kind of listen to them. But I have nothing against the competition world, but this is my brand and that's what I follow by. So that's why I do it that way.
Any
But
other yes, there's a
I
question
cook more than
there.
barbecue, you know. So what do you say? Bark is just a crust. Bark is just the crust of the meat. Like with the briskets, they have a good crust on it. The smoke ring is the pink color. So that's just like with these ribs. I can say, ooh, I got a great bark on it right here. You know, that's the difference in it. Yes, it's totally different.
Yeah, so I would encourage everyone who has a rib and who didn't yet devour it, which I know the chances of that are small, but I would, if you can hold it up to the light and just see if you can see the thin layer that is kind of pink around the outside, that's the smoke ring. That's it. Okay, any other question out there? Yes. What's your favorite meat to smoke?
All of them.
All of them.
No. I honestly like doing ribs. I love doing ribs. I love doing brisket too. Yeah, I'm gonna say about ribs and brisket.
Another question. What is the hardest meat to smoke?
Chicken. I hate cooking chicken. There's a reason Aaron don't serve it at his restaurant, so there's a reason why. But you know, I don't like cooking chicken, because chicken is the only meat you really get that number one complaint about. Oh, the blood is by the bone.
What's your favorite meat to eat?
Duck.
What's your favorite
Duck.
meat to eat? Duck?
I love duck. Yeah.
Yes, question.
What about seafood? Do you smoke seafood?
Do you smoke seafood?
Yes. It's more like indirect though. I don't really like because it's just directly on the smoker. So I usually would smoke. I just smoked some salmon Saturday at an event, and I did it on like the coal offset spot. But I've had it in a pan because I didn't want the oils and stuff on the smoker. And you know, it's a saying like once you cook seafood on a grill or a smoker, the flavor doesn't get out.
Lobster, crab?
I've never cooked lobster or crab on it, to be honest.
How
I just
often
had
do you eat
barbecue. I just had barbecue last week. I went to A1. It's in Columbia, South Carolina. Scott's A1 Barbecue off Gardner's Ferry. Actually, he has a Texas offset smoker that I was explaining about, and it was amazing.
How long it took you to perfect your technique on the barbecue? And what was the aha moment? Like, oh, I learned this. Now I can.
Oh, that's a great question. So the question was, how long did it take to perfect your technique, and did you have any aha moments? Good question.
I don't think I perfected it yet. I feel like it should get better every year. So I've had that question before, but yeah, I never really feel like I got it now. I feel like it should be better every year. So like once you get complacent with, oh, this is how it should be, then you kind of lose touch on what you're doing because it's like, oh, I got it. And then you get comfortable.
Yes. Good. Do you ever use your welding skills to build your own smoker?
No, it's too much time. It takes too much time to do that. These are baby backs. Okay.
Okay, so how are we doing? Who has still not had a rib? Ooh, we're getting close. Or are you now on your second? No, I don't think so. Good. Okay, just a thin sliver in the back. Okay, so how about you first and then you?
Just a comment, for those of us who have had the ribs, delicious.
They're good? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So are there two types of ribs on there? What's the issue with
Yeah, so like these right here were spare St. Louis, and this is like the baby back with the curve in it. So the baby back has like these little extra pieces, and so you can't really see them, but they have little fragments of bone right up here by the top. So I had to go cut it in half and go the other way. You caught that, huh?
Okay, so I'm not sure I fully heard, were the ribs good? There we go, there we go. What do you think?
How was the peas?
How are the peas? They were great, okay. What kind of peas were they?
Those were called conch peas and Martian hen meals out of Modesto, South Carolina. A friend of mine's, Greg. Actually, he majored in science. And I told him I was coming back up here this year because hopefully he can come and talk about how the science of growing all the different, he grows peas, Carolina gold rice. He grows all that off a farm, and he has like these 100-year-old mills, and he grinds everything. So the rice, the Carolina gold rice, and the peas came from, he shipped that box up here. He knew I was gonna be here, and he shipped that box up here for me. Martian hen meals, like M-A-R-S-H, got me up like a spelling bee contest. M-A-R-S-H, hen, H-E-N, meals.
Oh, now there are coming questions about seconds. I don't think we can handle it. Sounds good though. How did you spice the peas?
So all I put in the peas was water, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and then the end pieces of the ribs. I put them in at the end, and thyme. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think everyone got a rib, right?
Okay.
Ah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think with that, let's officially wrap up here. Bryan is going to be around. If you have more questions, come up pepper him. But let's thank Bryan so much for this amazing lecture. Thank you.
Thank you.